Nothing happened. The gods did not send bolts of lightning, but the Hawaiians at the dinner felt as if they had been struck by lightning. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. Then, all over the islands, people who had lived in fear started breaking every rule they could, and nothing happened, except that now there were no rules, no laws, no customs to turn to. Kamehameha II officially abolished the old religion and ordered the destruction of all idols and temples. Then he and his wife sailed off to England. They came home in coffins, victims of measles. Imagine that everything you've ever believed is suddenly wrong. Your leader is gone. Where do you turn? The Hawaiians were lost. And that was just when those missionaries, Hiram Bingham and Asa Thurston, arrived. They found many Hawaiians receptive to Christianity. The Hawaiians turned to the Americans for advice on laws, on other matters of government, and even on dress and ways of life. The missionaries, who were horrified by many native practices, brought their own rigid ideas and values. They wanted the Hawaiians to wear clothes that covered their bodies, and they outlawed the hula dance because the movement seemed indecent to them. The hula dance wasn't tourist entertainment. It was a religious ritual. Their intentions were good, but they destroyed much of the native culture. The religious missionaries weren't the only newcomers who came to the islands. Merchants and others who saw opportunity began arriving. Europeans came as well as Americans. Planters established big sugarcane plantations. By the middle of the 19th century, there were frame houses, schools, churches, stores, taverns, and written language. Western culture was taking over. Some of that culture, like drinking, using guns, and trading for profit, would destroy many Hawaiian traditions. Some of it, like schooling and writing, would help preserve what survived. In 1848, a Hawaiian land commissioner introduced the Western idea of private ownership of land. Much of the island's territory was soon bought up by the newcomers. Before we move on to the next page, we have a picture, and its caption says, "In this early photograph, an American missionary stands behind two Hawaiian princes, Alexander Liholiho and Lot Kamehameha, dressed in Western attire." Moving on to the next page, that land exchange was called the Great Mahele. Then the outsiders, called Haoles, began to want more than just land. They wanted political power. The diseases they brought to the islands helped their cause. The Hawaiians had no immunity to Western diseases. For them, they were killers. Much of the native Hawaiian population got wiped out. That meant there were few workers for the sugarcane plantations. So the planters brought in Chinese laborers. They were followed by Japanese, Filipino, Korean, Portuguese, and Puerto Rican workers. The Americans and the Europeans attempted to get along with the native Hawaiians and the other Asian peoples, but they never considered them equals, not for a minute. Today we would call them racial bigots. Then, their ideas reflected their times. In 1891, a new ruler came to the throne. Her name was Queen Liliuokalani. A brilliant, determined woman, she intended to restore power to the Hawaiian people. Liliuokalani worked secretly on a new constitution. Only native Hawaiians would be able to vote. But the world had changed. Liliuokalani didn't understand that business interests now had more power than kings and queens, and the planters weren't going to let a native leader make rules for them, especially a woman. They employed thousands of workers. They determined Hawaii's economy. Asa Thurston's grandson, Loren, led a revolution. The American minister to Hawaii, the government's secretary in charge of Hawaiian affairs, not a religious leader, had U.S. Marines land at Honolulu. A new government was set up. Its leaders, the Haoles, appealed to Washington. They asked that the United States annex the islands. Up here we have a picture, and its caption says, "Japanese workers harvest sugarcane in Hawaii." President Grover Cleveland didn't know what was going on in Hawaii, and he was a cautious man. The Queen's niece, Princess Kaiulani, arrived in Washington and told the president that her country had been wronged. Cleveland sent a congressman to the islands to investigate. The congressman's report wasn't what the revolutionaries expected. It advised that in the name of justice, the monarchy be restored. But that didn't happen. Queen Liliuokalani had tried to return to a past that was no more. On July 4, 1894, Sanford B. Dole, a leading businessman, proclaimed himself President of the Republic of Hawaii. Liliuokalani was imprisoned in the royal palace for 8 months. The Hawaiian monarchy was finished. Manifest Destiny soon brought Hawaii under U.S. control. That idea, that the United States has a mission to spread democracy, was used to justify American expansion, even where it wasn't wanted. So, despite some strong opposition in Congress, President William McKinley signed a resolution annexing Hawaii to the United States. It was 1898, and the American flag now flew over the islands. The more you read history, the more you will notice that sometimes the right things happen for the wrong reasons, and vice versa. The Hawaiian story is complicated and filled with emotional and often heart-rending moments. All those people who came to Hawaii, the Asian workers, the missionaries, the planters, and those simply lured by the beauty of the place, created an astonishingly diverse society where people of all backgrounds have come to power. In 1959, Hawaii became the 50th state. Up here we have a picture, and as caption says, Liliuokalani, the last queen of Hawaii, was an early advocate of women's rights. She composed more than 200 songs, including the well-known Aloha Oi. And down here we have a box, and in it it says, Hawaii is now the southernmost state in the United States. Of the 8 major islands that make up Hawaii, Oahu is the most populous. Honolulu, the state capital, is a port of the island of Oahu. Hilo, the second largest city, is on the island of Hawaii. In Hawaii today, there is no majority racial group. Everyone belongs in a minority. The term Hawaiian is reserved for those of Hawaiian/Polynesian ancestry, who now make up about 1/8 of the total population, about 1.2 million people. People of Asian origin comprise 62% of the population. Whites make up 33.3%.